The sky above Zyrel Prime was full of silver clouds, floating like giant feathers across a purple sky inside the Interstellar Academy. Students of many alien races walked through shiny halls, wearing uniforms with house colors blue, red, green, and gold. But one girl stood alone at the edge of the lunch courtyard. Her name was Varela, and no one wanted to sit with her. She held a small food tray in both hands. Her shoulders were down, her silver eyes quiet. The benches were full of laughing students, but when she came close, they stopped talking. Some turned their heads. Others picked up their food and walked away. Even the teachers ignored it, as if they didn't see anything wrong. Varela was different. She was half Cerealian, one of the proud, noble races of this system. But her mother was from the Bantha, an exiled tribe said to be cursed. Her hair had the silver of the stars, but streaks of glowing violet ran through it, proof of her mixed blood. She didn't hide it. But she paid the price every day. The lunch bell echoed again, and still no one sat with her until the door opened. And a new face stepped in. He was human, tall for his age, with messy brown hair and a military-style jacket over his uniform. His name was Eli Grant, a recent transfer from Earth. Nobody noticed him much at first, but that changed quickly. Eli walked in, looked around, and paused. He saw the laughing students, the quiet teachers, the banners of proud houses. Then he saw her, sitting alone under a quiet tree with her untouched food. Their eyes met. Varela quickly looked down, expecting him to walk past like the others. But instead, Eli walked toward her. The whispers started right away. Is he crazy? He's going to sit with her. Human or not, he's making a mistake. Eli said nothing. He just walked over, put his tray down, and sat beside her like it was the most normal thing in the world. Varela didn't speak at first. She stared at him, confused. He picked up a piece of alien fruit and took a bite, then looked at her and said, "Food here's weird. Any recommendations?" For a second, just 1 second, she almost smiled. "No," she said softly. "It all tastes like paste." They both laughed, just a little. It was quiet laughter, but it was real. And it was the first time Varela had laughed at school in months, but the students nearby were not laughing. A girl in golden robes stood up from her table. Her name was Celine Vorn, daughter of a powerful house. She stared at Eli with disgust. He must not know who she is. She whispered to her friends, someone should teach him. Meanwhile, Eli kept talking with Varela, asking about this strange plant growing near her tree. She told him it was called Vaith, a symbol of balance between two worlds. He touched a leaf and smiled. "Fitting," he said. "You seem balanced to me." She looked at him strangely. "You don't know me." "Not yet," he replied. "But I know unfair when I see it." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You shouldn't sit with me. It'll make you a target." He shrugged. "I've been a target before." Then he looked around the courtyard. "But I didn't expect a school to be this cold." In the distance, Celine watched them with narrow eyes. She opened her HOLO-com and began typing. A message was sent to the Academy Council, with a screenshot of Eli and Varela sitting together as the lunch bell rang again. Students began to leave. Eli stood up and picked up his tray. "Thanks for the chat," he said. Casually, Varela blinked. "You're welcome." I think. Before he walked away, he leaned closer and whispered, "Tomorrow, same tree." She didn't know what to say, but after a pause, she nodded once, quickly, then looked away before he saw her smile. But danger was already moving behind the walls. Teachers were whispering, council members were watching, and political powers were waking because one simple act had just challenged the silent rules of this academy. A human had taken a seat beside someone who was supposed to stay alone, and in a world ruled by bloodlines and power, kindness could be a threat, The next morning. Eli walked into the academy halls with a calm face, but the air around him had changed. Whispers followed him down every corridor. Heads turned, stares lingered. And some students even stepped aside, not in respect, but in warning. He had done something unforgivable in their eyes. He had sat beside the girl no one dared to talk to, and now he was no longer just the new human. He was the one who broke the silence, and that made him dangerous. Virella wasn't in the hallway yet, but her name echoed in every whisper he heard. Mixed blood freak. Why would a human care? He must not know who she really is. Eli kept walking, eyes forward, ignoring the comments, but deep inside, he was already thinking. He knew this wasn't about friendship anymore. Something bigger was going on here, and he had just stepped into it when he reached his classroom. He saw her. Virella was sitting in the back row, alone as usual, but today her face was tighter, her eyes lower. Even from across the room, Eli could tell something was wrong. He walked straight to the empty seat beside her and sat down. Some students gasped. One even dropped their pen, but Eli leaned over and said, "Morning. I brought snacks this time." He pulled out a small wrapped treat from Earth's peanut butter candy. Virella blinked in surprise, then gave a tiny laugh. "What is that?" He grinned. "Illegal on half the galaxy. You're lucky I smuggled it." The class started, but the teacher paused when he saw them sitting together. Professor Yoval, a tall Zarelian with golden eyes and sharp robes, stared at Eli with cold disapproval. "Mr. Grant," he said slowly, "perhaps you are unaware. Seating preferences exist for a reason." Eli looked up. "Yes, sir. I prefer honesty and good company." The class went silent. Even Virella froze for a moment. She had never heard anyone talk back to Yoval before. The teacher narrowed his eyes, but didn't push further. He turned to the screen and started the lecture, but as he spoke, students behind them whispered louder, snickering. Insults, slurs in 3 languages. Eli heard it all but said nothing. Virella, though, quietly clenched her fists under the table after class as they walked down the hallway. She stopped suddenly. "You don't understand what you're doing," she said, looking at the floor. "They'll come after you. You're making enemies." For no reason, Eli leaned against the wall and looked at her carefully. "Maybe," he said, "but if no one stands beside you, how long will you keep standing alone?" She didn't answer, but her fingers relaxed just a little. That night, in the boys' dorm, Eli returned to his room to find it ransacked. Drawers pulled open, clothes ripped, datapad cracked. His books were burned, and symbols of Zarelian royalty were spray-painted on the walls. At the center of his bed was a small note. "Sit with her again, and the next damage won't be your room." Eli stared at it, then picked it up calmly. He walked to the nearest hallway cam and waved at it with the note in hand. Then he tossed it in the trash and went to find a maintenance spot to clean up. The next morning, the head ambassador of Earth contacted him. Ambassador Rain's face flickered on the holoscreen in his dorm. "Eli," she said firmly, "we've received reports of behavior that might be politically sensitive." Eli frowned. "You mean sitting with a girl in the cafeteria?" "She's not just a girl," Rain said. "Her mother's tribe, her bloodline has been tied to rebellion, curses, and past violence. The Zarelian High Council sees her existence as unstable." Eli crossed his arms. "So I should just walk past her like everyone else?" Rain looked tired. "No. I'm saying be smart. You're not here to fix ancient alien history. You're here to study. Getting involved in their social politics might get you expelled or worse." Eli leaned closer to the screen, voice steady. "Then maybe someone should fix it. Because if she's treated like this for something she didn't choose, that's not her problem. That's everyone else's." Rain sighed. "You sound like your father." He blinked. "Is that a compliment?" She gave a weak smile. Sometimes, after the call ended, Eli looked out the window. Varella's words echoed in his mind. They'll come after you. He smiled softly. Let them try. But on the other side of the campus, a private meeting was happening. Elite students from noble houses sat around a table glowing with holograms. Celine Vaughan stood at the head, eyes cold as ice. This human is interfering, she said. If he won't stay away from her, we'll make him disappear. A silent vote passed, and a plan began. Tomorrow would not be just another day. It would be the beginning of war in shadows. Over one act of kindness. The academy halls looked peaceful the next morning. Sunlight poured through the crystal glass ceiling, making the floor shine like water. But under that calm surface, something dangerous was rising. Eli had barely stepped outside his dorm when he noticed it. 3 different hall monitors stopped him for random checks. His ID failed twice before finally clearing. Students who used to ignore him now glared, whispered, or simply walked away. Some even pretended not to see him at all, just like they did with Varela, and she wasn't in class that day. The moment the final bell rang, Eli left the room and went straight to the garden behind the science building. He had seen her there once, late in the evening, quietly sitting under a curved stone arch filled with glowing vines. Sure enough, he found her again, her knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around them. She didn't look up when he arrived. Skipped class, he said. Sitting beside her, I hear that's illegal here. Varela didn't smile, didn't laugh. Her voice was low, almost hollow. You should stop sitting with me. Eli raised an eyebrow. Didn't we go over this already? You don't get it, she said softly. You think you're doing the right thing, but they'll destroy you for it. Eli leaned back on his arms, eyes up at the glowing sky above. Well, too late now, he replied. You already make the best lunch partner. That made her pause, just for a second. Then, in a voice even quieter, she said, There's something you don't know. Something I've never told anyone here. Eli turned to her, serious now, okay? He said gently, Tell me. She reached for the chain around her neck, slowly pulling out a pendant. It was a small, crystal bright silver with shifting purple light inside. As soon as she touched it, the air around them changed. The leaves of the vine above them shivered, though there was no wind. This is from my mother, she said. It's called a memory core from the Bantha tribe. They say only those with blood from both worlds can awaken it. My father gave it to her before he vanished. Eli looked at the pendant, its light pulsing softly. What does it do? He asked. Varela closed her eyes, and the crystal lit up like a tiny star. Suddenly, a shimmering image appeared in the air, floating like a dream. It was a village, covered in strange vines and glowing stones, with towers made of bone and crystal. Then screams echoed. Fire. Explosions, ships from above, raining down death. A woman with glowing violet eyes stood in the middle, protecting children with a force field of pure energy. That's my mother, Varela whispered. She died trying to protect the tribe. She opened her eyes and the image vanished. The crystal dimmed again. Eli sat in stunned silence for a moment. That wasn't a recording, he said slowly. That was real, it's memory. She nodded. Passed through blood. It's ancient Bantha power. Most say it's dangerous. Some say it's cursed. Eli looked at her seriously. But it saved lives. Varela turned away, ashamed. My power's growing, she whispered. And if they find out, they'll do more than just expel me. The council sees the Bantha as a threat. They think I'll become a weapon. Eli didn't look scared. He looked determined. You're not a weapon, he said. You're someone who lost her mother. Someone trying to survive in a place that fears what it doesn't understand, that doesn't make you dangerous. That makes you strong. Varela's eyes slowly met his, full of shock and something deeper. Hope, but across the garden, hidden in the trees. A tiny drone hovered silently. Its red lens blinked, recording everything. The footage was sent in real time to the inner chambers of the Academy Council. Old Xerelians with long robes and cold hearts watched the girl's powers revealed on screen. One of them leaned forward and whispered, "It has begun." Just like her mother, that night Eli's room was scanned by guards without warning. They found nothing but left it in chaos again. He slept on the floor, one eye open, hand resting near a wrench under his pillow. In her dorm, Varela sat by the window, holding the glowing crystal. For the first time in years, someone knew the truth and didn't run away. But she also knew the Academy wouldn't allow this to continue for long. And if they couldn't break Eli's spirit, they might try to break her. Instead, a red notice flashed on every screen in the Academy. It was short, cold, official. Student Varela Bantha, summoned to council tribunal charges, concealing ancestral powers, unauthorized use of tribal memory tech, and disruption of social harmony. The halls went silent. Students stared at the message, then turned to look at each other. Some looked surprised, others satisfied. Whispers followed. "It's finally happening. They should have done this years ago. She's dangerous." Eli read the message from his classroom and stood up. Without waiting for permission, he walked straight out. Even the teacher didn't stop him. Nobody dared in that moment in the tribunal hall. The council members wore dark robes, their faces hidden behind glowing masks. At the center stood Varela, her hands shaking, her crystal pendant taken away and locked inside a box of anti-energy metal. The chamber was filled with elite students, teachers, nobles, and media drones flying above, silently recording everything. And in the back stood Eli, watching it all. His fists clench. A council elder spoke, voice deep and heavy. "Varela Bantha, do you admit to possessing forbidden technology and hiding dangerous tribal powers?" Varela lifted her head slowly. "I never used it to hurt anyone," she said, voice quiet but clear. "I only used it to remember my mother, to understand who I am." "Who you are," the elder repeated, "a bloodline that caused rebellion, chaos, and the deaths of thousands. Do you not think such a heritage should be erased?" Gasps echoed. A few teachers looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Varela's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she wanted to run, but then she saw him. Eli had stepped forward, past the line where only legal defense was allowed. A guard moved to stop him, but the head counselor raised a hand. "Let him speak," the elder said, curious. "Let us see what the human has to say." Eli stood beside her, calm but firm. "She didn't hide anything," he said. "She was afraid. And rightly so. You made this place unsafe for her to exist." The room murmured. One of the nobles hissed, "He dares accuse the council." But Eli kept going. "You speak of her blood like it's poison. But I've seen what she carries. Not destruction, but memory. Love, courage." He pointed at the locked box. "That crystal holds her people's pain, their story. How can memory be a crime?" The council remained silent for a few seconds. Then one of them leaned forward. "You risk your future by defending her. You are a guest of this world, and you speak out of turn." Eli didn't flinch. "Then send me home," he said. "But everyone watching, every planet in this system, seeing the truth right now. You're not punishing a crime, you're punishing a girl for surviving." His voice echoed through the chamber, and the media drones focused in on his face. The audience began to shift. Some nobles frowned. Some students looked down in shame. Others nodded slowly. Varela stared at Eli, her heart pounding. No one had ever stood for her like that, not even her own people. The head counselor turned to her again. "Do you believe this human speaks for you?" he asked. Varela raised her head higher than ever before. "No," she said clearly. "He doesn't speak for me. He speaks with me. And for once, I'm not afraid to speak to." The crowd stirred. One young teacher even clapped once before. Stopping himself, the council whispered among themselves. Then the head elder finally spoke. The tribunal will take this under consideration. For now. The accused is not expelled. The words echoed like a lightning strike. Eli smiled slightly. And Varela let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. They left the chamber together, side by side, but outside, things were already changing. Across the Academy's interstellar news network, the video of Eli's speech went viral. Clips were played on 1,000 stations. Human defends shamed alien girl. Academy power questioned, voices rising across stars on distant worlds. Young students of mixed blood watched the video and felt something new, hope. But not everyone was happy. In a dark council room, Celine Vaughan smashed her datapad in rage. "They think they've won," she said, "but we haven't even started." She activated a private channel. "Begin phase 2, she whispered. "Target. The human will break him." And she follow. The Academy halls looked normal. But they weren't. After the tribunal, things didn't quiet down. They got worse. The whispers were now full of fear and fury. Some students supported Eli and Varela, but others, especially the elite houses, saw them as a threat to tradition. Eli didn't back down. He still walked beside Varela, still sat beside her in class, still laughed at her dry jokes, but something had changed in the air. It wasn't just cold. It was watching. Varela noticed it too. Security drones that used to float lazily now hovered near her, scanning more often. Teachers who ignored her before now stared longer, as if waiting for her to slip. And Celine Vaughan, daughter of a noble house, was always nearby, always smiling that fake smile like a knife wrapped in silk. That evening, Eli walked alone to the study wing. He wanted to review old human case laws on tribal rights to prepare something for Varela's possible second trial. He didn't know. Someone was waiting for him. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. Lights flickered once, just enough to feel wrong, and then shadows moved. 3 masked figures stepped out from behind pillars, their robes dark, their faces covered with gold-trimmed hoods. Eli stopped, narrowed his eyes. He didn't speak. He just reached into his jacket slowly. But it was too late. One attacker struck him in the side. Another slammed him into the wall. He fought back, bowed one in the stomach, kicked another's leg, but they were fast, trained, and ruthless. Fists hit his face, blood touched the floor, and Eli dropped to one knee. Gasping for air, "You were warned," one of them hissed, voice deep and distorted. "Stay away from her, you won't get up next time." They lifted him again, ready for the final blow. But then, a pulse of light hit the hallway. A wall of violet energy flashed across the air, knocking the attackers back with force. A figure stepped forward, her silver-violet hair glowing under the broken lights. Varela, her eyes were lit with quiet rage, her pendant burning like a small sun against her chest. She raised her hand, and the air itself bent around her fingers. The masked attackers scrambled back, one whispering, "It's true. She has the gift." Then they ran, fast, vanishing into side corridors like shadows into fog. Eli groaned, holding his ribs. Varela knelt beside him, hands trembling. "Why didn't you call me?" she asked, trying to check his wounds. "Didn't?" "No, I'd need backup." He coughed with a weak grin. "But you've got great timing, stupid human," she muttered, but her voice was shaking. She looked at his split lip and bruised side, then closed her eyes. Her hands glowed faintly, and the air buzzed. Some of the pain faded, not all, but enough for him to sit up straight. "How did you know?" he asked softly. "I felt it," she whispered, "like a tug in my bones. I didn't think I could, but I did." She looked scared herself of what she had just done. Eli reached for her hand. Ignoring the blood on his fingers, "You saved me," he said quietly. "That power isn't a curse. It's a gift. And you're in control? They're scared of you because they don't understand you. But I do." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said. "I just don't want to lose anyone else." From the far corner, a camera drone buzzed silently. It had recorded everything: the attack, the violence, the glow of her power, the tears in her eyes, and it transmitted live to the entire school network. Within minutes, students began watching it in classrooms, dorms, and even off-world broadcasts. This time, it wasn't just an argument or a speech. This was proof that Varela was powerful, yes. But she was also kind, that she wasn't the monster they feared. That she had used her strength not to destroy, but to protect. Some students began whispering, "She saved him." Others said, "Maybe we were wrong." And somewhere deep in the academy, even a few teachers sat quietly, ashamed of their silence. But not everyone was moved. In a dark room above the tribunal chamber, Celine Vaughan watched the footage with eyes full of fury. She showed her power. "In public," she said. "Now they'll see her as a symbol." One of her advisors whispered, "What shall we do?" She stood, her voice cold as ice. "We silence symbols. We break hope." But Varela had already crossed the line they feared. Most, she had stood up. And others had started to believe, the next day. Varela's name was all over the interstellar news streams. Headlines flashed, "Half-blood girl saves human with banned power." "Bantha energy wielder protects Earth student hero," or "Threat, hope, or hazard. What will the council do next?" Students at the academy watched the footage again and again. Some began nodding in respect. Others looked afraid, confused. Unsure what side they were on now, Eli stayed in bed for most of the day, his ribs still sore. But when he opened his eyes that morning, he saw a surprise: a plate of warm food and a small handwritten note on his desk. It said, "You're not as strong as you pretend, human. Eat this or I'll bring it to class and embarrass you. V." He smiled, even with the pain. Somehow, that small message meant more to him than anything else in the galaxy right now, but far from the academy. In a tower high above Zyrel Prime, a secret meeting was happening. A group of powerful nobles, wearing robes marked with old tribal signs, stood around a large table made of black glass. In the center was a glowing image of Varela. Her face caught mid-action from the hallway footage. An older noblewoman with bright gold eyes spoke. "She is the bridge between two worlds, the Zarelian and the Bantha. She has survived the council, the students, the whispers. And now the galaxy knows her name," another noble added. "She has the gift. She could awaken more memory, cores restore what was lost." And so, they sent her a message. That evening, Varela was called to a quiet, hidden chamber behind the academy library. It was an ancient meeting room, used only by bloodlines tied to royal ancestry. She entered alone, nervous but curious. Inside stood the noblewoman from the tower. Her name was High Matriarch Kalina of the twin sons, a forgotten branch of the Zarelian elite that had once protected Bantha refugees centuries ago. Kalina spoke gently, but with great weight. "Varela, child of two stars, the galaxy has turned its eye toward you. What you've done cannot be undone, but it can be shaped." Varela stayed silent. Unsure, Kalina stepped forward, offering her a scroll with a golden seal. "This is an invitation to something greater than school, greater than this planet. Come with us, and you will lead a new generation. Those like you who were cast aside. We will protect you, train you, and raise you to your full power." Varela stared at the seal, heart pounding. It was beautiful, tempting. But then Kalina said the one thing that shattered the moment. "There is only one condition. Leave the human behind. You must walk alone as a symbol of your people." Human alliances weaken the message. Varela froze, her hands lowered, scroll untouched. Why? She asked. He believed in me when no one else did. He bled for me. I won't throw him away. Kalina's face didn't change. The galaxy sees him as a tool. He served his purpose. Now you must rise without him. Varela shook her head slowly. No. He didn't serve me. He stood with me. He didn't care about my power. He cared about me. Kalina's eyes narrowed. Do not let emotion blind you. The future of your people is built on truth, Varela said sharply. And I won't lie about who helped me get here. She stepped back, fire in her voice now. You offer me power, but ask me to give up loyalty. That's not strength. That's politics. I'm not your symbol. I'm a person, and I make my own choices. With that, she turned and walked out, leaving the golden scroll behind. Kalina said nothing, but as the door closed, her hands trembled slightly for the first time in years. Someone had refused her. That night, Varela found Eli on the rooftop garden. The stars above were quiet, blinking gently as if listening. He looked up as she walked toward him. Let me guess, he said. They made an offer. She sat beside him and nodded. They said I could lead something big. If I left you behind, Eli raised his eyebrows. So what did you say? She smiled softly. I said no. Because you're not a weakness, Eli. You're the reason I remembered who I really am. He smiled back, touched in a way words couldn't explain. I'm not going anywhere. He said, not unless you tell me to. Then stay close, she whispered. And in that moment, under the stars of a watching galaxy, two souls from different worlds became something stronger together, not a weapon, not a symbol, but a team. 1 month later, the academy looked the same from the outside. Tall towers, glowing halls, proud banners flying in the wind. But inside, everything had changed. A new mural had appeared on the wall of the central hall. It showed a girl with glowing violet eyes standing beside a human boy. Behind them were stars, and around them students of every race, holding hands, looking forward. The mural had no title, but everyone called it The Day the Silence Broke. Varela walked through the academy garden wearing her usual clothes, simple, neat, nothing royal. But now, wherever she went, students nodded in respect. Some even smiled. And younger ones followed her in quiet admiration for the first time. She didn't walk with her head down. She walked with purpose. Eli walked beside her, as always. Bruises long healed. He carried a bag of data pads and snacks, joking as usual. You know, he said. Back on Earth, I once stopped a school fight with pizza. Here, I had to fight secret attackers, win a trial, and nearly get expelled. This place has no chill. Varela laughed softly. You also became famous across 3 sectors, she said, and got me into trouble almost every day. He grinned. Worth it? Today was special. The academy had called a full assembly, something that only happened for great victories or major history. Varela had been invited to speak, not as a student, not as a problem, as a voice. As she stepped onto the stage, thousands of students, teachers, and even council elders sat quietly. Media drones hovered above, broadcasting to distant systems. She stood at the podium, looked out at the sea of eyes watching her, and took a deep breath. I was born between 2 worlds, she began. One full of rules, pride, and ancient names, and one full of silence, memory, and sorrow for most of my life. I thought I had to choose one. I thought I had to hide one side of myself to survive. She paused, but someone showed me. I didn't have to choose, that I could be both. That I could be whole. That my blood, my past, my power, wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was something to share. The audience listened in silence, drawn in by her calm voice, her strength. I used to sit alone. I used to believe no one would ever stand beside me. But then someone did, just one person. She looked toward Eli in the crowd, and that one person reminded me that real change doesn't need armies. Sometimes it only needs one voice. And then another joins and another, until silence is broken and something new begins. Some students had tears in their eyes. Even teachers who once looked away now looked down, ashamed of their silence. "I don't stand here because I'm strong," she said. "I stand here because I was seen. And now I see you, every student who's been told they don't belong. Every mixed-blood child, every quiet voice in a loud room. You are not alone anymore. This academy is no longer a place for just the powerful. It will now be a place for the truth who dare to be themselves." The room stood silent for a long breath. Then, someone clapped, then another. Then a wave of applause rose like thunder across the chamber. Not forced, not polite, real, because something had truly changed. Later that evening, Virella and Eli stood by the rooftop garden again. Stars blinked above them, peaceful and quiet. Eli leaned on the rail, looking out at the city lights below. "So what now?" he asked, leader of change, voice of the future, breaker of rules. "What's next?" Virella smiled. "We keep going. We build more bridges. We speak louder. We teach others how to stand. And maybe one day, no one will need to fight, just to be accepted." Eli nodded. "And until then?" he asked. She turned to him. "We keep standing. Together." He held out a hand. She took it, fingers strong and steady, and in that moment, under the starlit sky, two young souls stood united, not as legend and protector, not as symbol and ally, but as friends, as equals, as a reminder that humanity's greatest strength, standing with others when no one else will.